commitment that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media, it's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. I think they're going to see through it. We'll find out on November 8th.
All right, there it is. That is the big story today. Trump refusing to say he'll accept the election results. Chris Wallace, Las Vegas, courtesy last night of the third and final presidential debate. That brings us to hour number 2 of the Bernie and Sid show here on 77 WABC. Had a great first hour. The head of the Catholic League, Bill Donahue, stopped by. We start off hour number 2 with a very esteemed guest, a great columnist, not good, great, in the New York Post each and every day, and a good friend of the Bernie and Sid show, Michael Goodwin. Michael, Bernie, Sid, good morning, pal. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Thank you.
Nice to have you. So what do you think about this, about the fact that the big story today is the fact that Donald Trump will not accept Hillary as the winner if, in fact, she does win?
Yeah, look, I think that is probably the only news that came out of the debate. I think that it was a question that Trump could have answered in a different way that would have conveyed the same concern without the absolute, way of saying I won't accept it. Joe Walsh, a friend of mine, former Republican congressman from Chicago, wrote essentially that the correct answer is yes, as soon as the results are final, and I'm sure there wasn't fraud. Right. That would have been the answer that I think would have been a better answer and would have gotten this monkey off of Trump's back and turned the issue more to what happened last night and the rest of the debate and where the country wants to go instead of just that one narrow question.
And, of course, Hillary Clinton, she overplays her hand. She says what Trump said was horrifying. Horrifying is
appalling.
No, she said horrifying. Horrifying is what Jerry Sandusky did, is what Bill Clinton did to the intern in the White House. That's horrifying, Hillary, not this. But, Michael Goodwin, you did write in the New York Post this morning. You have a must-read column. And you did say that Trump had done well. He delivered his best prepared and most substantive performance thus far. However, you go on to say what?
Well, look, did he move the needle? Did he attract the independents? My answer to that is no, I don't believe he did. And at this late date, it's going to get harder and harder now. That was a big opportunity last night, the last big audience, the last time he'll be on the stage with her, and I think he didn't change the contour of the race. And look, some of the polls might be wrong, but they're not all wrong, and so I subscribe to the idea that he is behind and that she is opening up a lead nationally in the 6 to 8 point range. And when you translate that into votes, in terms of turnout, we're talking probably 10 or 12 million votes that separates them at this point. Very hard to make that up. And then you look at the Electoral College, and I think with the exception of Ohio, she is at least tied or leading in all of the other battleground states. And then, of course, there are outliers like Arizona, where she apparently is doing very well, which is a traditional red state. So I think his path to victory is a really steep climb at this point, and I don't think he really helped himself in that regard last night.
No, the numbers don't add up. Unless you believe this silent Brexit thing exists, in millions, by the way, then he really has no chance. I would say this, though, Michael. Unlike the debates during the primary where he stood out and people loved his charm and his appeal and he vanquished the other 16 people, if you really look at what's happened against Hillary, even though Trump supporters think he fared well in the second debate, I think he's got a qualifier before, which is just live another day, you did okay. I think he lost all 3, to be honest with you. And I don't think he could beat her on any stage at any night because he's not articulate enough to get his points across. But you'd have to agree, Michael, that starting with the first debate, he's never come back.
Well, look, I would agree that his debate performances have never quite, they've never been great. They've had periods within them that were fine, some good, and some bad. But I think the real problem for him has been between debates. It was after the first debate where he got into the fight with the Khans, after the second debate where he got into the fight with the former Miss Universe, Machado. So I think it's been that the debates are not what's defeating Donald Trump. They have kept him from, I think, seizing his opportunities. He's not nimble verbally.
No.
He doesn't move quickly. I mean, for example, the foundation question last night, the corruption, the pay-to-play. What he should have said after she sort of dodged it right away was, look, the issue is, what did you do with the money? Where did all the money come from? What did you do with it? All of these pay-to-play. In other words, Chris Wallace asked a question, but Trump did not have the nimbleness to pounce in the way that she did when tough questions came to him. So I think that the debates, he left a lot of money on the table. This is Vegas. But I think it's the between the debate performances that have really made it very difficult for him.
But you're exactly right on him not highlighting or exploiting the corruption with the foundation and her as Secretary of State. He did an adequate job with Haiti, how they raped Haiti. But for the life of me, when Putin comes up, I don't understand why he doesn't bring up the fact that she approved as Secretary of State the transfer of the sale of 20% of the uranium in the world from the United States to Putin, Russia itself. And Bill got $500,000 from a Russian company. The Clinton Global Foundation got millions of dollars, and we lost 20% of the world's uranium. I don't understand why he doesn't bring that up.
Look, I think that is exactly the point, Bernard. It's his inability to prosecute the argument in a way that would resonate and in a way that would nail down the topic to the audience. But that's just not what he's good at. He is a disruptor. He is good at throwing sand in the gears and saying, look over there, look over here. But this kind of close quarter verbal combat, once you get beyond the insult machine,
right,
he's just not that good at it. And she's, I think we have to give her some credit.
She's real good.
She's a pretty good debater.
Yeah, real good.
She's been doing it for a long time. She was well prepared. She knows what she wants to do. She knows who she's talking to. She is targeted and precise. And even when she ducks, she's a good ducker. So I just think that she outperformed him last night, and this may be his last big chance to reach.
Yeah, he would have done well to stay home get a good night's sleep and bone up and prepare for. He owed it to his supporters to do that instead of being out at these rallies, which are great for the ego and all of that stuff.
Right.
But not for these debates, which are extremly important.
And then I would ask you this, Michael, the great post columnist Michael Goodwin here with Bernie and Sid. On one hand, we're talking about how he has opportunities and doesn't seize them when given the opportunity at these debates. And then outside the debates, you talked about some of the other distracting issues that have hurt him. This whining about the election being rigged, I understand the media's against him. You've written that. I agree with that. I'm voting for Hillary. I agree that it's a bias against him. I get it. But why does he think that whining about all that stuff, including when his own party goes out after him, is going to help him?
Well, look, I don't know the exact answer to that. I don't know that this is necessarily a rational choice on his part. If we were to assume that it's rational, though, if we're to assume that he's thought this through and he's given this answer because he thinks it will help him, then I think he's talking about holding his supporters, that he is being true to that 38-40% who are with him come hell or high water. So I think that's a mistake. I think, you don't have to give them more and more and more. You have to add voters at this stage. It's a game of addition, and he is not adding to his following. That's the way I look at it, and so I'm not sure it's a rational decision. I think that what Hillary Clinton has been trying to say, and I think she's had a lot of success, is this is who he is. This is a mindset. It's not a thought process in the sense of I'm going out there with a plan to attract independent voters.
And even that last night, he had a chance to debunk that, and instead he giggled on the Emmy deal, which was cute and it was kind of funny, but all it did was drive home her point.
Yes, yes. Look, I mean, I think that when she said, his attacking him on the issues with women, and that he thinks this belittling women makes him look bigger. I mean, that is a devastating critique. And look, campaigns develop sometimes slowly, and issues take time to marinate, and narratives need to be confirmed and reconfirmed. And I think what we saw last night was her basically saying, see, I told you so. I have been telling you this for a long time, and now you can see it. This is how he thinks. This is who he is. So I think that it's not just what happens in the debate, but that it's the debate confirming lines of attack and lines of argument. And she did that better last night. But it's not just last night. She has been consistent in painting him as unfit, unprepared, and reckless and dangerous. He's been aided and abetted by the left-wing media, but he has helped. He has given that argument some credence. And I have to say that it has been credible enough that there are many undecided or independent voters and those who are not firmly committed to others, myself included, who need more reassurance, and I just don't think he provided it last night.
He did not. I don't think he did either. But and we're talking about his temperament and his style. But I think Michael Goodwin from the New York Post would agree that on substantive issues, open borders, refugees, Obamacare, he's on the right side of those issues. And unfortunately, he can't, as you said, articulate or exploit the fact that she's on the wrong side.
Look, I mean, it's odd, Bernard, when you look at a lot of the polling on individual issues, right? Immigration. Most of the country thinks that the whole immigration thing is broken. That we need to control our borders. We need to know better who's coming and who's staying and all of that. And yet, on the big polls, she outpoints him on immigration. So it doesn't make any sense. It's not a logical.
You want me to tell you why? I'll tell you why. Because he came out and it was great. No one's coming here. We're keeping everybody out. These people are rapists and murderers and killers and ISIS and blah, blah, blah. And I was all great. He came out with a bluster that was really exciting. And over the last 18 months, Michael, he's done nothing to really explain or further. In fact, if anything, he's coming closer to what she is saying, which is, well, I'm going to draw it back just a little bit. Maybe it's about extreme vetting. He hasn't added to the initial excitement when he first came out with those remarks 19 months ago.
Well, look, I would agree with you to the extent that he has not refined his argument in a way that keeps the essence and therefore keeps the people on his side who initially liked it, and yet expands the argument in a way that attracts new people.
Right.
I think on the question of extreme vetting, she moved toward him, knowing that was a popular position because of the terrorism issues.
Okay.
But he has not. And I think this gets back to the personal thing. It's not so much the policy. It's like, in the end of the day, most voters, most even viewers of a debate, are not down into the weeds on policy. They like the general idea, they like a general approach, and then they want to trust you to deliver it. And I think it's that last part that he has not been able to nail down. He is erratic. He is unpredictable in ways that undercut the sense of certainty and trust and comfort that voters like. I mean, look, Barack Obama, I think, is one of the most dishonest candidates ever. When you look back at 2008, what he promised and what he delivered are very different things.
And you voted for him.
And I voted for him. And I think, but he is such a skillful politician that he can go out there and still sell the same BS and get away with it. I mean, he has a skill on the stump. Clinton it does not have Obama's skill, but she has more skill than Trump at selling BS And I think that is one of the reasons, one of the differences between them. She is just more skillful at this stuff than he is.
Last one from me, again, Michael Goodwin, the great columnist in the New York Post. I know, Joe, we have to run, but one more. That is that, no disrespect to Bill Donahue, who just joined us from the Catholic League, but when he goes out there and says he will appoint judges that almost inevitably will overturn Roe versus Wade, how does that help him with women? I'm just curious.
Well, look, I think there are a lot of pro-life women, so I don't think that I think that horrifies pro-choice women, but there are a lot of pro-life women. I may be wrong. I don't think that hurts him so much. I don't think it helps him so much. I think it was a good question on Chris Wallace's part about getting that answer, but I have to say that I think that on the issue of partial birth and late term, which I think Trump was pretty good at last night, because that never gets brought up, and Hillary Clinton cannot answer that question. Going back to the Bill Clinton era, abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. Well, it's not rare. It's not rare. It's expanding dramatically, particularly among minority groups. And so I think if you are horrified by any abortion, certainly late-term abortion. I mean, Daniel Patrick Moynihan called it infanticide.
Right, and as you pointed out, the polls show most women are against it, late-term abortion.
Yeah, late-term, and yet Obama got away with that. He never showed up for those votes in the Chicago Senate. Right? So, I don't think that's it. I think it's a larger thing about Trump not providing the comfort that he is fit to be the commander-in-chief. That's a big topic, but I think that is the best way to summarize why he did not move the needle last night.
All right, Bill Donahue from the New York... Michael Goodwin from the New York Post, the Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist,
awesome
I might add.
Awesome.
Great column, must-read in the New York Post this morning, all about the debate last night. Thank you for appearing on the Bernie and Sid
You're a great
Show.
guest, Michael. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, guys.
Take care.
All right, back on Bernie and Sid, 1-800-848-9222. We go to the